They say every love story has a turning point, the moment when everything changes, when the fairy tale cracks and you finally see the truth hiding behind the glitter. For me, that moment happened at his bachelor party. The music was deafening, laughter filled the air, and in the middle of it all, Liam kissed her, through a thin sheet of plastic wrap, as if that made it innocent. The crowd erupted in cheers. Phones flashed. His friends chanted his name like he was some kind of hero for doing it. And I just stood there, frozen, watching the man I was supposed to marry in less than 24 hours make a mockery of every promise he ever made. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just smiled, calm, cold, deliberate. Because I already knew what I was going to do next. The night had started so ordinarily. I was at home, finalizing the last details for the wedding, the seating chart, the flower arrangements, the playlist for our first dance. Everything had to be perfect. Liam had texted me earlier, teasing about how he couldn't wait to see me walk down the aisle. "Don't stay up too late, future Mrs. Carter," he'd said, adding a heart emoji at the end. That message still sat on my phone like a cruel joke. It was close to midnight when my best friend, Maya, called me. Her tone was strange, hesitant, uneasy. "Anna," she said quietly, "please don't get mad, but you should come to the club. I think you need to see something." At first, I laughed. "Maya, come on. It's Liam's bachelor party. I trust him. Don't be dramatic." But she didn't laugh back. "I wish I was being dramatic," she whispered. "Just come, please." Something in her voice made my chest tighten. I didn't even change out of my sweater and jeans, I just grabbed my keys and left. The streets were empty, glistening from the rain that had fallen earlier. As I drove, my mind played every sweet moment Liam and I had ever shared. His proposal under the oak tree behind my parents' house. His promises. The way he used to brush my hair back when I was stressed. Every memory felt like a shard of glass pressing deeper into my skin. When I reached the club, the bass was so loud it seemed to vibrate through the pavement. Inside, the lights were wild, flashing red and blue, distorting faces and movements until everything felt like a nightmare. I pushed through the crowd, following the sound of his laughter. It wasn't hard to find him. He stood in the center of the room, surrounded by his friends, shirt unbuttoned, drink in hand. Across from him was a tall blonde woman in a short silver dress, Jessica, one of his coworkers. I remembered her. She was always a little too friendly at office events, always finding an excuse to touch his arm or whisper something in his ear. I had ignored it back then, telling myself trust mattered more than jealousy. Now, they stood facing each other, a sheet of cling wrap stretched tight between them. The crowd shouted and whistled, cameras recording every second. One of Liam's friends yelled, "Come on, man. Just one kiss. It doesn't count if there's plastic." I watched, numb, as he grinned, my fiancé, the man I thought I knew, and leaned forward. Their lips met through the plastic, a ridiculous, pathetic imitation of intimacy, but the betrayal felt real. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Jessica laughed, a high, mocking sound that sliced through the music. For a moment, I couldn't move. The room blurred, the noise faded, and all I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. He pulled away, laughing, until his eyes found mine in the crowd. His smile vanished. "Anna," he choked out, panic flashing across his face. He stumbled forward, trying to push through his friends. "Anna, wait." But I didn't wait. I didn't shout or slap him or demand an explanation. Instead, I let that slow, calm smile curve my lips, the kind of smile that comes when pain burns itself out and leaves only steel behind. Then I turned around and walked out. The night air hit my face like ice. I stood there for a moment, breathing it in, my hands shaking. Then I took out my phone. My mind wasn't on the kiss anymore. It was on everything else. The small lies, the moments that didn't make sense, the way he always changed the subject when I asked about his work. It all clicked now, like puzzle pieces falling into place. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the name, Evelyn Ross. Liam's senior partner. The woman who had trusted him with her biggest client. The woman whose project he had been secretly using to climb the corporate ladder. I had stumbled upon the evidence weeks ago, documents on our shared laptop, half-deleted emails, drafts that didn't belong to him. I hadn't said anything back then because I thought love meant loyalty. But loyalty doesn't mean silence when someone's betraying others, and you I pressed call. It rang twice before she picked up. Anna. Her voice was groggy, surprised. Sorry to wake you, I said evenly, but you might want to check the files on Project Greenlight before tomorrow's meeting. There was a pause, sharp, curious. Why? Because Liam's been planning to present your work as his own. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a quiet, deliberate voice said, "Thank you for the warning." I ended the call, slipped the phone back into my pocket, and walked to my car. Inside, I sat for a long time staring at the engagement ring on my finger. The diamond caught the light, glittering coldly, like the reflection of something already dead. I slid it off slowly, placed it in the glove box, and shut it with a soft click. On the drive home, tears finally came, not from heartbreak, but from release. I wasn't crying for him, I was crying for the version of myself that had loved too hard, trusted too blindly, forgiven too easily. When I got home, the apartment felt unfamiliar. Every framed photo, every shared memory, looked like evidence in a case I hadn't realized I was living in. I packed a suitcase, just essentials. Passport, a few clothes, my journal. I booked a flight for the next morning. No note, no confrontation, no dramatic goodbye. By dawn, I was gone. The sun was just rising, painting the sky with pink and gold as the plane lifted off the runway. Below me, the city looked small, like the version of my life I was finally leaving behind. Somewhere, in a crowded club, Liam was probably waking up with a hangover and a hollow pit of guilt. He would call, he would text, he would beg, and I wouldn't answer, because that night, when he kissed her through plastic and called it just a joke, he didn't just betray me. He revealed who he truly was. And I had no interest in marrying a man who only respected loyalty when it served him. As the plane cut through the clouds, I looked out the window and smiled, not the cold, calculated smile from the night before, but something softer. Free, because sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't destruction. It's walking away so silently that your absence echoes louder than your pain ever could. And deep down, I knew that one phone call was only the beginning. They say silence is the loudest kind of revenge, and mine echoed across the miles between us. When I left that night, I thought I'd never look back. But fate has a way of testing whether you're truly over something, or someone. The morning I saw Liam's name plastered across the news, I realized that the call I made that night had done more than end our engagement. It had ended his illusion of control. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in forever, peace. The headline was impossible to miss. Top attorney under investigation for ethics violation. His photo stared back at me from the screen, disheveled, defeated, nothing like the man who once stood in front of a crowd with champagne in hand, grinning like he owned the world. My phone buzzed constantly that day, calls from mutual friends, texts full of shock, disbelief, and gossip. I didn't answer any of them. I was already gone, tucked away in a sunlit apartment overlooking the Arno River in Florence, sipping coffee as the world I'd left behind unraveled without me. Every morning there began the same way. Soft light spilling across the cobblestone streets, the smell of espresso drifting from the cafe downstairs, the chatter of strangers who didn't know my story and didn't care. I liked it that way. No one here called me Liam's fiancé. No one looked at me with pity. I was just Anna, the quiet woman who wrote in her notebook and smiled at passing strangers. But peace doesn't come without ghosts. Sometimes at night, when the streets fell silent and the world was still, memories came back uninvited. The sound of his laughter. The warmth of his hand in mine. The way he used to whisper, "You're my forever." Those memories didn't hurt anymore. They just reminded me of how much I'd once settled for love that wasn't strong enough to stay true. It was about 3 weeks later when he found me. I was sitting in the same cafe I always went to, sketching in my notebook, when I looked up and saw him standing by the door. His eyes met mine across the room, tired, desperate, searching. He looked older somehow, like guilt had carved years into his face. For a moment, I couldn't move. The air around us felt thick, heavy with everything unspoken. He walked over slowly, like he wasn't sure I'd let him. When he stopped at my table, his voice cracked. "Anna." I didn't know where else to go. I closed my notebook and looked up at him calmly. "You shouldn't have come, Liam." He sat down anyway, hands trembling slightly. "I know you hate me. I know I messed up. But please, just listen." I didn't say anything. I let him talk. I never meant for any of this to happen, he began, words tumbling over each other. That night, it was stupid. Just a dare. I didn't even think. I was drunk, and everyone was shouting. Don't, I interrupted softly. Don't insult both of us with excuses. You knew what you were doing. He flinched, running a hand through his hair. I lost everything, Anna. The firm, my license, my friends, they all turned on me. Evelyn, she made sure everyone knew. I looked at him, unblinking. And you think I should feel sorry for you? He swallowed hard, his voice breaking. No, I don't know how to fix this. I thought if I saw you, maybe, he stopped, his eyes pleading. I thought maybe we could start over. A quiet laugh escaped me, not cruel, just tired. Start over, Liam, we can't start over. You destroyed what we built. You didn't just cheat on me, you humiliated me. You made a joke out of our love. He leaned forward, desperation in every movement. It was one mistake. Don't throw away everything we had because of one stupid night. I shook my head slowly. You still don't get it, do you? It wasn't just one night. It was every lie, every moment you made me doubt my instincts, every time you thought I wouldn't notice the cracks. That kiss was just the final proof. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The noise of the cafe faded around us. He looked down, shoulders shaking, and when he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. I loved you, Anna. I felt a sting in my chest, but it wasn't pain. It was the ghost of a feeling that no longer existed. Maybe you did, I said softly. But love without respect isn't love, it's possession. He looked up, eyes wet. So that's it, you're just done. I stood, gathering my things. I was done the moment I walked out of that club. I just didn't realize it until now. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away gently. Goodbye, Liam. And then I walked out, leaving him sitting there alone amid the sound of clinking cups and murmured voices. Outside, the sunlight hit my face, warm and golden. I took a deep breath and felt something lift off my chest, something that had been weighing me down for far too long. I didn't feel triumphant or vengeful. I just felt free. Over the next few months, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I started writing seriously, pouring everything I couldn't say out loud into words. I wrote about heartbreak, strength, and the quiet power of walking away. My first story was published online under a pen name. To my surprise, it went viral. Messages began pouring in from women who said they saw themselves in my words, women who had stayed too long in the wrong love, who had forgotten their worth, who found courage in leaving. For the first time, I realized that my pain hadn't been for nothing. It had transformed into something meaningful, something that helped others heal. And in helping them, I healed too. One evening, as I sat by the window overlooking the river, the sky turning shades of gold and pink, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened the message. It read, "You were right. I had to lose everything to understand what I lost, L." I stared at the words for a long time, my reflection shimmering in the glass. There was no anger left in me, no sadness either, just quiet acceptance. I deleted the message without replying. Because closure doesn't always come from an apology. Sometimes it comes from realizing you no longer need one. That night, I went for a walk by the river. The air smelled like rain, and the city lights danced on the water. I thought about everything, the laughter, the betrayal, the pain, the healing. And then I smiled to myself. He had kissed someone through plastic to prove something to his friends. I had walked through fire to prove something to myself. And that made all the difference. I stopped on the bridge, watching the water flow beneath me, endless and free. That was me now, steady, calm, unstoppable. The world would remember him for the scandal. But I would remember myself for the strength it took to leave. Because love isn't about how loudly someone says they care. It's about how quietly they choose to stay true when no one's watching. And when I think back to that night, I no longer see pain or humiliation. I see the moment I took my life back. The moment my silence became my power. The night he kissed her through plastic wrap, he thought he was just having fun. I thought I was just watching everything fall apart. But what really happened was simple. He lost me, and I finally found myself.